So I had to watch this with ads, and there was about 10 ads every 5 minutes, and I can tell you two things that I learned.
Yeah.
Americans love trucks and fucking Cheetos.
Ooh.
Yeah, trucks and Cheetos, GP.
Okay.
Trucks and Cheetos.
There you go.
Hi, Julian Benzavali.
Hello, Patrick Hines.
Girl, this weekend, if you're listening to this when this drops, my opening night for my Patrick's Traveling Book Party is happening this Saturday at the Bell House.
January 21st.
January 21st. There's still a couple of tickets left. Come see me. I want this to be sold out. I want opening night sold out.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to do it.
One part dance party. You and I are going to dance on the stage. Everyone else is going to dance in the audience.
Yeah, the more you say it, the truer it is. Me dancing on stage.
You're going to pick the song.
Yeah, we are. Okay, we'll do it together.
You're going to pick it. Then I'm going to do a book reading, and there's a game component, which I know you hate, but you're going to come up on stage and do with me.
I don't hate it. You won't tell me anything about it.
No,
My curiosity is killing me.
It's a surprise. And that's what I'm doing in all the cities. So a lot of the cities are sold out, but go see where I'm coming. Come and see me. Join us on the Patreon.
Yeah, join us on the Patreon. We're doing I Just Killed My Dad.
Oh my God, so wild.
I know. Puppet Master and Bad Vegan and Finding Andrea and Relentless and what else did we
all
just
the classic stuff like Making a Murderer, The Staircase.
Murders at Starved Rock. Remember that one?
Oh my God, the Gacy thing from Peacock.
Yeah.
We did the Bigfoot one. We've
Lorena.
done UFO ones. Yeah, there's so much of
so much.
So many videos from like our live shows and content from Obsessed Fest.
Yeah, and also depending on the tier, like we do AMAs, we give you advice. We have like other forms of our content there too, like
our
not just
annual calendar that we give out for Christmas.
Oh yeah. I hope you're hanging it up wherever you're listening to this.
All right, girl, what are we talking about today?
All right, Rifkin on Rifkin, private conversations with a serial killer. I think. Nope, that's wrong.
Okay.
Rifkin on Rifkin, private confessions of a serial killer. It's one of those things on Oxygen where we have to hear from the piece of shit.
Yep.
I heard Joel Rifkin's name on the radio.
Joel Rifkin has told police he's a serial killer.
That was my college friend. He looked so harmless, I had to have answers.
I just created a nice little secret life for myself. I covered up for years.
There were plenty of kids in the hall who were scary, but Joel was not.
I was trying to figure out how the Joel that I knew became a deadly killer.
He's riding around all night looking for girls, and then he's butchering the bodies next door.
I had it done. There was no more thought than stomping on a bug or a cockroach.
He felt no guilt, no remorse, no pain.
He was a monster.
All right, I said right at the top, we're doing an Oxygen thing, right? This one's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah, I knew nothing about this guy. It's always shocking to me when I hear of a serial killer I hadn't heard of.
Well, yeah, this is on my turf, New York City, 1989.
I can't believe your mother let you out of the house. Knowing Barbara the way I know her now.
Barely.
I can't believe there's a serial killer on the loose and your mom let you play in the backyard.
I know, with just watching me through the curtain. So yeah, New York City, 1989.
New York City in the late 80s and the early 90s. Crime was rampant.
A policeman was shot dead in his patrol car.
There were more than 2,000 murders a year.
This has reached epidemic proportions.
It is a crack epidemic, which police say is causing an increase in murder and other violent crime.
2,000 murders a year, plus we had the crack epidemic.
This one cop goes, I mean, it was scary for me, so I cannot imagine what it was like for the populace.
Yeah, that's Robert. He's a detective from the New York PD.
He's also friends with this guy from college, kind of. We'll get into that when we get into that, but he's the one who does all the recorded interviews.
Yeah, and this is very we get on-screen text like, Long Island was a safe haven until June 27th, 1993. Everyone thought all the ruffians and all the bad shit happened in Manhattan. I got news for you. It happens all over the world.
1993, I was alive, and I remember 1993. It's weird when we cover a documentary about a serial killer that takes place in my lifetime.
Yeah.
Serial killers feel like they're from the 70s, and the 70s only.
Yeah, I agree, but you know so many more cases than I do.
Oh, is that right?
There are some times where you're like, I remember this on the news, and I'm like, you did? You do? So, yeah, we're on the Southern State Parkway on Long Island. That is not my turf. I don't really know the Southern State that very much.
Yeah, it's a quiet night. Nobody's on the road. We meet Detective Sean. He's telling us it's about 3:15 a.m.
Yeah.
They see a pickup truck in the center lane. They realize there's no license plate on it, to which I said it's always some traffic shit with these idiots.
Right.
It's always some traffic shit.
Yeah, Al Capone with the parking ticket for tax evasion. Oh, no, they got Al Capone on tax evasion, but Son of Sam was the parking ticket.
Ted Bundy with with the tail light. Israel serial keys with the taillight.
Idiots.
All these serial killers getting pulled.
Or like not putting your blinker on.
Stay fucking stupid, morons.
Keep it up. So they're trying to pull over this pickup truck, but it won't pull over.
We pulled up alongside of him. He just kind of slowly looked over, had a very blank look on his face. We thought he was pulling up onto the shoulder, at which time he exited the Southern State Parkway. He just wasn't stopping.
Can I just say, they say this thing, they drive up next to him, they see that he's got a blank look on his face, and they go, we thought he was pulling over. No, instead he just exited off the Southern State
They're like, he just
Parkway.
wasn't stopping.
And he turned off, they tried to pull him over at an exit ramp, and the guy just took the ramp.
Yeah, they go, off he goes, they're chasing him, he ends up crashing into a light pole, and he's arrested, and bada bing, bada boom, it's Joel Rifkin.
This whole thing made me laugh so hard. The whole idea that the cops are trying to arrest, they think they're going to pull him over, and he's like veering over,
like,
but then he
nope.
just takes the exit.
And I'm pretty sure he was hammered because he crashes into a light pole.
I mean, these people, he's been getting away with murders for years, but he doesn't think to not drive the truck without the license plate.
Because at this point, he's untouchable, right? In his own mind. So they pull him over, or he crashes. No, they do not pull him over, just be clear.
Yeah.
And I don't get the sense that it was a real, hot pursuit. They were just, I think they were all going around the speed limit. And they're like, hey!
Time to pull over.
They're doing the little
woo!
Yeah.
But
not even that. They're doing the little thing.
They're just making the sound with their hands. Woo!
Why can't I? Oh, Jillian, use your words. They're trying to get him to pull the window down.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think we had electric windows by the 90s.
Sure. But they're old time guys.
Yeah.
You know, they're still doing this. They get all these buttons in the car.
Yeah.
So they pull, I keep saying pull over. Anyway, they're with him now.
Yeah.
They discover a fucking dead body in the trunk.
Yeah.
To which I say, how is this thing 90 minutes long? We got the guy.
I know.
But Eugene, who's a lieutenant, now retired, he goes,
that was the first time Joel Rifkin raised to the level of anyone's attention. He wasn't on our radar. Prior to this, he was invisible, certainly to law enforcement.
Now, the dead body in the trunk, that was the first time Joel raised any red flags. And I'm like, right,
I know.
The red flags happened before the murders. That's how this works. It's more than a red flag. It's a dead body that now we have to find justice for, but the red flags happened before the murder. Am I wrong?
No, you're correct. And I also love any documentary, any documentation that takes place in New York City, and we get the Jillian Cop Long Island accent.
I don't even know if that's how he sounds, but guess what?
That's
New
how
York
he
in the
sounds
90s, you're getting it. New York in any decade, you're getting it. And the cop who's friends with him, Robert, he keeps calling him Joel. Which is very New York.
You're right. 3 syllables, Joel.
Yeah. So I went to college with Joel, and I was saying to him, what happened? You were all into the journalism, and now you're here.
They bring him in. They bring him downtown. He's very cooperative. The cops ask him, hey, that dead body we found in your trunk, have you ever done this before?
Is this your first? What's up?
And he goes, well, what? It was such a Daisy answer. Well, what if I did? Can I tell you a
your
quick
daughter,
story
Daisy?
about Daisy? Yesterday morning, we spent all morning looking for her fucking shoes. I couldn't find them anywhere. Daisy's, quote, helping me look for them.
Okay.
She gets to wear her Ugg boots to school then, but she's not supposed to.
Okay.
This morning, we're doing the whole thing, and I'm like, Daisy, where are your shoes? You have to help us. She's like, let me go in my room by myself and see if I can find them.
Okay. Yeah.
I followed her in there. She didn't see me. She hid her shoes in a little box.
To wear the Uggs.
Yeah, exactly.
Why can't she wear the Uggs?
It's their school rule.
Okay.
But that's the only other shoes she has. So other than her tap shoes, which we should have sent her to school in her fucking tap shoes.
Honestly.
She comes out with her little shoes on her little fingers.
Is this them? Is this it right here?
Totally. So it was a very Daisy answer. Hey, have you ever killed anybody before? Well, what if I did?
Well, let's hope that Daisy stops at the shoes.
Let's hope. But the cops say to him,
Is it more than 10, less than 20? He kind of leaned back in the chair and said, 1 or 100, what's the difference?
1 or 100, what's the difference?
Yeah,
now,
fuck this guy.
But I agree with him, except differently. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're a piece of fucking shit, whether you killed 1 or 100 people. You know what I mean?
Right. I don't care how
the number
bad.
matters when you're talking about the victims, but no, if you killed 1 person, that's it. You're done.
Yeah. And speaking of the victims, I'm just going to say this now. I take issue with Oxygen just breezing over and completely ignoring several of the victims.
Yes.
So I Googled all of his victims and made my own little timeline.
Oh, great.
So I'm going to be saying their names when the time comes because they skip them a lot. And I wish they would have said, because there's a lot of on-screen text in this, put their names in it instead of saying the next murder was, no, you're wrong on that.
Yeah.
I know you want to save time. This thing's 90 minutes anyway. I got your back. I'm going to say
in
the
and out
names.
of the 5 hours of ads I had to watch, there's
Thank
like
you.
a 15-minute recap each time.
I made my own little timeline. Spent a lot of time on it. So I'm going to say those names because they
Americans
deserve it.
love trucks and Cheetos.
I mean,
That's it.
Cheetos, I understand.
Cheetos, I stand by.
So he's arrested and his name's all over the paper. And that's when Detective Robert hears about this and he's like,
Yeah.
holy shit, it's Joel from college.
It's Joel. I said he gay gasped. That's my college friend. So this is where Robert gives us the backstory about how they were friends.
I had received my very first paid assignment for a boxing magazine featuring a local fighter. The journalism department recommended Joel Rifkin as the wonder kid of the photography department. We drove the 30 miles or so to the fight.
He talks about them like they were best friends. They worked on one assignment together and then never saw each other
Is
again.
that right?
They worked on one boxing assignment together.
Yeah, they were signed to it. It's not like they
right,
picked,
exactly.
You know, oh, I want to be with Joel.
And then literally he's like, I meant to track him down that year, but I didn't after that. And then the next year I looked for him, but I found out that he dropped out. They worked on one story together.
Right. But Robert's like, hey, I'm a cop now. Like,
It's
maybe
true.
I can help him.
So like Robert writes to Joel.
Because he also, maybe that just wasn't made clear.
Uh-huh.
Because then Robert says things like, I was just assumed he was out conquering the world. He was such a bright, shining
Right.
star. I was just a little cop. That he goes, and I was just being a cop, and Joel was out conquering the
I
world.
know.
Meanwhile, I see him on the news, and I'm like, Robert, which one was it?
Yeah, are you going to do that the whole time?
Nope.
Or we're going to have a Richard Robert
No,
situation?
because he's now going to be Rob the cop.
Totally,
That's it.
totally. But it's also true because we know that Rob didn't know him because every other single person in this document describes him as like the world's biggest loser.
Right.
And to Robert, he's like a fucking hero.
Right. And so Rob the cop writes to Joel, like he's trying to get to the bottom of it. Like, was he a murderer in college?
Yeah.
Like, when did it all go wrong?
But like they correspond for 7 years.
Yeah.
Like Rob wants to really get to know him. They correspond for 7 years. And finally, Rob's like, I don't know, maybe I'll write a book someday, make a document. He goes to see him in prison with a tape recorder.
There you go. And so Rob is trying to use like his journalism education and the fact that he's a cop because he's like, hey,
you know
Joel.
what? Good combination, if you ask me.
Because
you
he's
know?
asking, and it's like, oh man, I wish you didn't have to be a journalism major to also know how to ask good questions as a cop. Whatever. We can, I don't know, figure that out one of these days.
Yeah.
But he's just like, Joel, what happened?
Yeah, level with me.
You used to be really into that journalism stuff. Where'd you go wrong?
He also, like, as he's starting to get his backstory.
What I found most interesting was, unlike most people that have a desire to harm others, there was no bedwetting. There was no purposeful harm of animals. There was no fire starting. So he really is unique. His behaviors did not reflect any of the normal patterns of such a nefarious criminal.
He says his behavior didn't reflect the normal, nefarious criminal.
Right.
So he is, like, according to Rob, who I don't know if he's an expert or what, but he thinks he is.
Yeah.
He's, like, not your typical criminal.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just saying.
Sometimes criminals are assholes and like they hide it well, or
Exactly.
they don't like thank
or
God
maybe he's just
abuse
not being
animals.
honest with you about every single thing he's telling you.
Yeah, I guess.
Now we get like 20 minutes of the childhood, which is only important here because we learn that he was like mercilessly bullied by people at school, but also by like his dad.
Right. So he wasn't good at sports, so the dad was all up in arms about it. Fucking barf.
We let it go.
Who
Here's what
cares?
I said. I made the note. Can we just support our kids in the things they like? You think I like going to fucking ice skating every Sunday? You think I want to spend every Saturday and every Thursday in a rock climbing gym? No.
But you're doing it.
She doesn't want to do it.
Right.
Do I wish my kid wanted to go do the local community theater?
Right.
Take more tap classes? Yes, I do.
Right.
Do I love her anyway? Am I disappointed in her
You're
because
gonna-
she's great at soccer?
You're gonna knock something over. I love the arms. You can't.
I'm just saying.
But I hear your point, and I love your point.
And I'm also like, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but as an adoptive parent, I can say they had to try really hard to have these kids because they adopted them.
I was gonna say they were adopted too.
I'm not saying that like adoptive or birth parents love their kids more or less. That's just I don't.
And people who give birth also can have a lot of trouble.
Of course, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna adopt a kid, can you just go into it knowing it might not be exactly like you?
How about if you're gonna have a kid at all in any way?
But I do think, because we experienced this with Daisy. Daisy is nothing like how Steve or I was as kids.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But you deal with it because she's yours and you love her. That's it.
My point being...
Is it that simple?
Yes, I hate the rock climbing gym. The Wi-Fi sucks.
Yeah.
No one talks to you.
Yeah.
There's not a vending machine. I go and I love her and I tell her she did a good job. That's all you gotta do.
Right, because she did. Who cares?
That's all you gotta do.
Deal
Even
with
if
it.
she didn't, I'd say you did great.
That's what I mean. Because
She's
she
not.
did. No matter what, she did.
Exactly. 8 3/4.
Okay. Oh, she'll remind you, I'm sure.
Also,
while we might have been throwing the ball, he was looking at the sidewalk with a magnifying glass at a bug or something. I do remember Joel being called Turtle.
He was so slow at things, they called him Turtle. The shade of that is so mean. I'm just saying they called him a turtle because he was and when I say slow, I mean literally slow. He wasn't good at sports.
He was always the last pick.
I'm not talking about his intellect or anything like that.
No.
They were talking about like him being bad at sports. Turtle, that's so rude.
Right. And he just had one of those dads where you couldn't please him no matter what.
Because like Rifkin's got an IQ of 128, but he's got a hard time concentrating, so he's still not doing well in school. So the dad who's pissed that he's not good at sports is now like...
And he's getting bullied by the kids.
Exactly.
So like this is a recipe for doing poorly in school. I know.
Yes. And I gotta say, like, I've got a dyslexic kid. I know how frustrating it is to sit there with a kid who doesn't want to do their homework.
Right. And can't articulate why.
No, and she's got ADHD. You can't just get up and throw your hands up and walk away. Stop being a fucking asshole.
Right. And when you're bullied, like I was, and also frustrated with not being able to do well in school, like it sucks.
Yes.
And like also, my parents weren't disappointed in me. We were like trying to get to the bottom of it. It was like the three of us versus the problem, but no one knew what the problem was until I was like 18. But like, do you know how many parents are disappointed in their kids and how few of them become serial killers?
Totally.
I'm so fucking over that.
You know what, though? I do think that we have to pay attention to this. Like, nobody really does make the direct correlation. Like, he was bullied, and so now he's a serial killer. But I do think that, like, the way we treat people matters. You know what I mean?
I agree. And kids are the worst. Like, kids can be so mean.
Yes.
Like, stories that I have, stories that Mike has, and, like, they were shoving underwear in his mouth. Like, can we teach our kids to not do shit like that?
This happens throughout his whole life. So he's saying that, like, he gets so bullied at school.
In the morning, he would time it so he would get to school seconds before the bell rang, so nobody would have the opportunity to harass him. He would take the circuitous route through the woods to his home, where he would secure himself in his room for the rest of the night.
Then he would get home and lock himself in his room so he wouldn't be bullied by his dad.
Right.
Like that, his fucking life sucks. It does not, he's not off the hook for the shit he did later, of course, but like, we've got to do better than this.
Yeah. And the thing about kids who are bullies, they turn into adults who are bullies. Because like, I can't tell you how many times
I mean,
I'm
this guy's a serial killer.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But I'm also saying just like in the real world, how many times I've had conversations with friends or like, especially people younger than me who are going through some kind of bullying situation. And part of my advice is like, let me tell you, like, let's handle this situation, but also it never ends.
Yeah.
I know bullies who are older than me.
Totally.
I know it's crazy.
No, it's true.
But the point is, he learned to be invisible, and he says, and the cops are saying, like, this helped him as a serial killer.
Yes. And we meet Joan, his biographer, and I don't really have much to say about her, except that she really took our advice to heart, and she's like full hair and makeup.
She's very Long Island.
I mean, like the eyeshadow for days.
Yeah.
Full beats, full hair and makeup.
She's got a haircut like Glendora from, is that Bewitched? Bewitched's mom.
Oh,
she has the big, like...
Oh, my God. Yeah, that's
kind of beehive, kind of a beehive, but
it's a beehive bun. Totally.
Oh, but also, you know what else plays a part in him being a serial killer? His violent sexual fantasies. They play a role in this, too, because he would get turned on by women getting strangled in Hitchcock movies.
Yeah.
And Hitchcock was a creep and an abuser, too, so the apple doesn't fall far.
Really fucking gross.
Gross.
So all of this goes on for 18 years, the bullying, the fantasies about, like, killing women while having sex with them. He goes to college, he drops out, moves home with his parents. In 1986, his dad is hospitalized with cancer, and then his dad dies by suicide.
Yeah, in the hospital room.
In the hospital.
He was intentionally overdosing.
Yeah, and they say that
the desire to please his father would have always been at the core of his emotional life. But with his father gone, that burden lifted. His mother was preoccupied with her life as she was getting older. It gave him the freedom to act on his worst impulses and fantasies.
Because his mom was, quote, preoccupied, so he was sort of, no one was caring about him or looking after him in any way. So
right. And he's
like,
also an adult at this point, so, oh my God. But they say he lived for the nighttime. He would drive through Queens and Manhattan, visiting, quote, all the strolls. He's looking for sex workers.
Right.
And for years, he, like, only has relationships, and by relationships, I mean paid experiences with sex workers. And he even says it becomes an addiction. He's saying, when you're dealing with a sex worker, you don't have to worry about rejection. They're going to do whatever you pay them for.
He was in charge. These are his words.
Yes.
And he looked at them as lower than him, so he finally got to feel important.
And he's now on tape blaming them for his lack of a, quote, normal relationship and lack of career. It's their fault.
And that he can't keep a job
exactly.
because he needs to overpower women and just like, give me a fucking break.
And he's spending so much money on these sex workers. He's saying he'd get paid on Friday, blow all of his this money on sex workers over the weekend, and then on Monday morning he has to like beg for gas money.
Right. And we've seen this before.
Yeah.
Where the men go to the sex workers, and then even though they think like, oh, they have to say yes, the sex workers still disappoint them in some way, or make them angry in some way, or are at fault for something like not being able to keep a job. And then here comes the anger and the rage, and now it's a perfect recipe for fucking disaster.
And remember, he's been fantasizing about killing women during sex his entire life since he became a sexualized person.
And now it happens.
Right.
So he meets up with Susie, and Susie is a sex worker he knows, and they go to his mother's house. She's away. She's out of town. They have sex on the couch. Trigger warning, this is going to get horrible.
He's annoyed that she's not paying him more attention. At some point, she wakes up. She immediately wants drugs. Joel, at this point, is exasperated with her, and he impulsively just starts hitting her on the head.
She wakes up, and Joel beats her so hard that he actually thinks she's dead.
But she's not.
She's not. And then he strangles her and kills her.
I mean, and like we hear him describing this beating and murder in a total and complete monotone.
Yeah.
He has absolutely no emotion or feeling about it at all.
And he dismembers her. And I do want to say something. Oxygen, I have more issues with this. This music is so fucking disrespectful. It's like the Ghostbusters theme.
Oh, I didn't even know
It's supposed to be like spooky and weird, and it comes off as fucking quirky, and it's not spooky.
Yeah.
It's scary in the sense where like this is a real person doing something to another human, and we should respect her.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm like, why does this sound like the Ghostbusters theme? That's a problem.
Oh my God,
that's a fucking problem. It's not Halloween night.
No, yeah,
Stop it.
No, but he does this thing because he's like so paranoid about getting caught. He dismembers her and dumps different parts of her body in different places.
Yeah, and so like a golfer ends up finding, this is so bad, ends up finding her head near a golf course, and there's like no ID.
In New Jersey, so like he's put like pieces of her body in one of the rivers in Manhattan, then drives into New Jersey and like puts her head like in a shallow grave outside a golf course.
I know.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. And he knew enough to remove her teeth so that they couldn't use dental records to ID her, right?
Yeah.
So this is all great for Joel. He murdered a woman and he got away with it.
Yeah, but the head is found pretty quickly. He hears on the news that a head has been found in Hopewell, New Jersey, where he buried it. He's like now convinced he's going to get caught. He's terrified.
Yeah, and then he doesn't.
And then he doesn't.
He's like, great, let's do this again.
And that emboldens him.
Right.
And like, remember, this is the 90s, so DNA isn't not a thing yet, but like it's not happening. Like it's still really fucking hard.
Right.
And because he's burying different parts of the bodies in different jurisdictions and different states.
He knows.
Nobody
he knows
talks.
What he's doing.
I mean, the methodology here is so sick.
Yeah.
Because he has to have that body and be dealing with it for days.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. So it's the fall of 1990. He does the same thing he did to Susie. They, for whatever reason, don't say her name. Her name was Julie Blackbird. I don't know why.
That's wild.
She's just like nameless here. Her name is Julie Blackbird. But it's the same thing. Like she was a sex worker. He hires her. Things go sour in his crazy fucked up mind. And he beats her to death.
This time, he used a little different MO. He went out and bought cement and tarps.
He threw the concrete into a river, which we know sinks to the bottom, never to be found. He was improving his technique, so to speak.
And they say, and I hate this phrase, but I know what they're saying.
Yeah.
He's, quote, improving his technique, which is like, and I just want to remind, because we'll get to it, like he knows exactly what he's doing.
Yes.
Exactly what he's doing.
So like in 1991, he commits his first murder that's not at his mother's house. It's in a motel. And then like the next string of murders are all committed in his car.
Right. And that string of murders, Barbara Jacobs, Mary Ellen DeLuca, Yun Lee, and number 6 is what they call her because she's unidentified.
So this victim number 6, what happens is he kills her in his car, then drives to northern Manhattan into like an industrial area. Now, I used to live in northern Manhattan. These are everywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're like either apartment buildings that are being built or pieces of bridges that are like anybody could do this.
Mm-hmm.
And he drives off the road into this industrial area where he goes and like dumps the body in a waterway. And as he's coming back to the car, there's a fucking cop there.
Right.
And the cop asks no questions.
He immediately picks up something from the ground, an auto part, and before the cops have an opportunity to say anything, he says, "I'm not auto stripping, I'm just scavenging."
The killer bends over, picks up a piece of like a fucking carburetor or whatever, and he's like, I'm just scavenging for car parts.
And the cops are like, I'm so sorry to bother you.
Oh my God.
Where we bought, please, sir, continue. Oh my God, I'm going to dock myself a few days' pay for
and
that.
Like the thing is, there's a dead body 5 feet that way. If they had searched his car, they would have smelled it. If they had like just And I kept thinking, if he was a person of color, this would have been so fucking different.
Right.
Because he's a white man, and nobody wants to believe that he could be doing anything bad. They just let him go.
And he probably looks exactly like the cop, or like
100%.
Someone the cop knows,
Yep.
and like he doesn't. It's the Ted Bundy thing all over
again.
again.
It's the Jeffrey Dahmer of it all, like returning the victims to the fucking killer.
Yes.
You know?
But again, also the other side of this too is he's killing sex workers. So how many times have we been through this, right? Like they're considered easy targets because, quote, no one cares.
Yep.
They won't be reported missing. Sometimes they're not using their real names.
Yep.
Like they're hard to identify and people aren't looking for them.
And it's also the perfect storm of like, because we get 20 more minutes here of like what an invisible loser this guy was.
Right.
Because like he had to learn to be invisible because he was so bullied by the school and by his dad.
Right.
That like he's literally looks like D.B. Cooper. He's just like an average.
He looks like everybody
white
and
guy.
nobody.
Yeah. And like, and the cops say
He's
over
a Twitter
and over
egg.
again. Yes.
He's a Twitter profile
They're
egg,
like
you know?
100 times we hear the cops say like, there's no reason why Rifkin should have been on our radar. He's just not the kind of guy you would ever look at.
They keep saying it.
Mr. Cellophane should have been his name. Cause you can walk right by me, see right through me, and never know I'm there.
They call me.
Cellophane.
I like the end part where they really do the little burlesque action. Our next victim is Lorraine Orvieto, and we're here with her cousin Darlene. Lorraine was not a sex worker. Her family was looking for her all over the place. She just vanished, according to her cousin. This is a very, very sad story.
Yeah, because what we learned...
She just had so much vigor, so much life. She wanted to be an accountant. I think she knew very clearly what she wanted in her life. I remember Lorraine's frustration at struggling to pass the CPA exam. She tried twice, but she couldn't pass this test. She was really deflated.
She really wanted to be an accountant, but she couldn't pass the CPA exam.
Look,
to
you
which
and me
I
both,
said, I
Lorraine.
hear you, Lorraine.
Are you kidding me?
The CPA exam, she takes it twice, does not pass.
You know?
Steve Tipton would pass that in his sleep.
I always say to my mom when we talk about this and just, I don't know, just, being in the creative field, or I always say, like, you know what? It would make a lot of people more comfortable if I was an accountant and Mike and I had 2.5 kids.
Uh-huh.
But when I say that, I'm like, because that's like an easy thing to say. Like everyone sort of knows what that is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I could never be an accountant.
No.
The accountant is like, and my brain just doesn't work that way with the numbers.
I mean, there was a time I tried to be an executive assistant. I write about it in my book.
Oh my God.
I was so bad at my job that Steve had to come after hours and make the spreadsheets for me.
Stop.
Steve would work a full day at his job, then come to my job and do the spreadsheets.
And then it was like super fun time for Steve.
Totally.
Couldn't
and the
wait.
next day they'd be like, your spreadsheets are amazing.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I was like,
don't ask me to do one right now, because I totally could if I wanted to. I work better at night.
Yeah.
I really thrive in the darkness.
It's better when there's nobody here in the office and I'm just doing it all by myself.
Yeah. So don't look at anything until later. You know what? Tomorrow. Tomorrow works.
And then
much
my
better for
daughter
me.
fed a bunch of important documents to the shredder and I got fired.
Is that right?
Yeah. But anyway, Lorraine ends up in the hospital, and in the hospital, she learns she has HIV.
Well, she needs to get a blood transfusion in 1985, and the blood transfusion is what gave her HIV, and then it turned into AIDS.
And so, she loses all hope, and she ends up like being unhoused and living on the street and developing a drug problem.
Right.
And she is never seen again.
Right. And it turns out her family learns through this that Lorraine ends up being a sex worker.
Right.
And that's how she meets the killer.
Yeah. So now we learn about Christmas weekend. He hires another sex worker.
Yeah. And they skip right over Marianne Holloman and victim number 9, also unidentified. Why are they doing this?
I don't know.
These are so many names that they're just skipping right over.
Yeah. And so like the end of Lorraine's story is that like he has sex with her.
And in the process of receiving sex from her, he did what he was already in the habit of doing. It's just habitual.
After taking her life, Lorraine Orvieto is the first of several victims that he places in a 50-gallon drum.
Puts her in a 50-gallon barrel and dumps the barrel in a canal in Brooklyn. And it takes 7 months for them to find the barrel and even longer than that to identify the body. So the family goes like a year without knowing what happened.
I know. It's so horrible. And then for whatever reason, Oxygen skips right over Marianne Holloman and unidentified victim number 9. Don't know why they're doing this. But the next victim, according to the doc, is Iris Sanchez.
And they're saying like as he's progressing, he's just getting sloppier and sloppier.
Right.
Because he picks up Iris during the day, which is very unusual
right.
for him.
They're on the Lower East Side.
He like has sex with her in the car, kills her in the car, drives out to like a vacant lot near JFK, where he like in the middle of the day takes this body out of the car, finds a mattress where he picks up the mattress, puts the body under the mattress, gets back in his car, drives away. Nobody sees anything.
It's 2 in the afternoon.
2 in the afternoon by JFK.
By JFK. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But so Fred the neighbor, we
God.
met earlier when everyone was talking about like
Fred's
being
in a band.
neighbors.
Fred does not miss the opportunity to promote his band in this documentary.
And good for him because he's wearing the band's t-shirt. But so Fred is here again and he's like, I don't live in East Meadow anymore, but I visit my mom all the time. And he was way too busy with the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble.
I mean, the New York Ska, that's the 90th thing we've ever said.
Like I
even
just see
more
the
than
checkered,
anything on
the checkered
Woodstock.
print.
Totally.
The checkered print, the hat, and the glasses.
Oh my God.
But
opening for the Boss Tones.
Oh my God. Or like the specials. You know what? Good for him. Get that promotion for him.
Yeah. I would go see the New York Ska Jazz Ensemble tonight.
I would go with you.
If they were doing a show, I would go tonight.
1,000%. Would you skank with me? That's what the dancing was called.
I will skank with you anytime.
Oh.
I don't know what that means, but if you're doing it, I'm doing it.
All right, let's do it.
Let's all skank together.
Yeah. The 90s people know what it is. But Fred says also so 90s and so ska.
I was walking with my horn just somewhere down in the village near the club, and I see Joel in a car. Oh, there's a girl with him. So in my mind, I'm thinking, haven't really seen him with too many girls. I'm not going to interrupt, and I'm just going to be like, hey, bro, how are you doing? Oh, yeah, just did a show. All right. See you soon.
So I was walking down the street with my horn. I was somewhere downtown. Just says it
with
outright.
His horn.
Fred, we get it. You're in the ska band. I'm thrilled for you. So I was with my horn. And there I see. So what he does is, Fred clocks Joel in a car with a woman.
Yes.
And Fred doesn't want to interrupt because the kid had a real hard time in high school and he's with a girl and, I don't want to mess around.
He never sees him with a girl. Yeah.
But Fred has this like horrible, shocking realization later. Oh my God, he was with a victim and I could have stopped it and I didn't.
And I saw it. And not to mention the fact that like some of these victims he's dismembering in the garage right next door to this fucking guy's house.
Right.
Like it's one of those crazy things where we meet these neighbors. This went on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And like at one point Fred's mom hired the killer to like trim the bushes because they were afraid the mom's gonna get thrown out of the house.
Oh my God.
So like they knew him. They knew him during this time period.
They knew him. And suddenly we learn about Catherine Williams and Julian Attaway and how they met when they were high school seniors. To which I say, great, who are they?
Okay, so they're here. Julian is here to tell us the story. This is his favorite note of his entire life.
Yeah.
He was a quarterback on his high school football team, and Catherine was the head cheerleader for the rival team. He literally says, it gave us some notoriety in our town.
It's a fun little sexy scandal for everybody.
He thinks he was famous because he was dating the opposing team's head cheerleader.
But then it was like, now everyone hates each other even more. How could you? Such betrayal.
It sounds very
it's an
Friday
episode
Night
of Friday
Lights.
Night Lights. I didn't even realize I'm wearing my Friday Night Lights Clear Eyes Full Hearts Can't Lose shirt.
I just said Julian has been telling the story at a cocktail party ever since.
Yeah, exactly. Also, they skip more victims, Anna Lopez and Violet O'Neill.
Jesus.
So she breaks up with him.
Yes.
In high school, and she ends up being a professional cheerleader.
Yeah, he sees her on TV.
Yeah. He's like,
I mean,
oh my
a
God.
professional cheerleader. She must have been really good.
That is so hard.
I know.
It is so hard.
I know.
She moves to New York, and he's like, I'm definitely never going to see her again. Like, she, maybe the one who got away or whatever. But one day, and we don't know where they are.
I know. This is so
geographically.
Crazy. Yeah.
It's not New York.
Yeah.
But one day, there he is in the Methodist church.
I looked up there, and there she stood, Catherine Williams. When everyone was quiet, she just turned around. She looked right at me, bang. I knew at that moment that I was going to marry her. I knew it. I knew it. At that moment, she knew it too. And she goes, well, I know of the justice of the peace down the road. Let's go tomorrow.
They see each other and they decide that day that they're going to get married.
They get married in like 2 days. She's like, I know Justice of the Peace, like down the block.
They
You
drive,
down?
they like literally jump in the car and they go and get married. It's wild. Then Julian explains to us that like bada bing, bada boom, they are living like the world's craziest, like drug fueled party every day.
He's
life.
like, it was the 80s, so cocaine was afoot. He says, they discover cocaine, to which I say, it's never a good thing.
Yeah.
And he said we had, quote, dangerous parties. And Julian's like, things got really scary really quick. And things just got out of control. And Julian sort of has this moment where he's like, okay, I'm pressing stop. I want to get off this ride right now.
Yeah.
So he sort of takes Catherine aside and says, look, I need to go home to my family. I think you should do the same. Like, we need to stop this. This is not healthy. This is scary. It's dangerous.
We're going to die.
We're going to die. Like, something bad will happen. And like, let's pull the plug on this.
Yeah.
Catherine decides to head back to New York City because Julian tells us she had a support system there.
Yes.
And I guess he goes like back home. We don't know where this is. It sounds like the South.
Yep.
I don't know, but we don't know where.
Yeah.
But they're still married. They're
Right.
still married. And Catherine is just like, you know what? Wait, I'm coming home. You're right. I don't want to be in New York City with the support system. I want to be home with you and my family and like the town we grew up in.
Yes. But then like put a pin in that because it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen.
And we learned that the killer had been with this woman several times. She's working as a sex worker in New York.
To like get money to go back home.
Right. And so she says to Joel, I'm coming home tomorrow. We don't know, like this week, I'm coming back to get you.
I just need a couple more bucks.
Yep.
You know.
She never shows up. And so like now we're hearing Joel on the tapes telling his version of knowing Catherine. And he's saying that like she would like everywhere she went, she had a suitcase with her full of like all of the things that mattered the most to her, like her wedding pictures.
Right. And because like she's coming back to New York and she's just her goal is to get home. So she's not living anywhere. She's just like everything she has. And we learned
Mary Catherine was the symbol and the reality of the girl, not only that he could never get, but the girl who chose the bullies. So she was a symbol of everything that he hated, that he was envious of.
She's showing Joel her wedding pictures. The guy's like the quarterback star of the football team. These are the people that like ruined his life.
and she's the beautiful star cheerleader. She was homecoming queen, the football player husband. Like she was, they say, and I'm putting this in quotes, like the pretty girl who marries the handsome bully.
Exactly.
Even though she's not treating him that way.
Exactly.
And Julian sounds pretty nice. Like I don't think they were.
Julian still looks great, by the way.
Right? Who knows? He's a nice guy, whatever.
Yeah. So she's with him trying to make money to get back to Julian, and the killer kills her.
Yeah.
And she's his 13th victim. And Julian is like, while I was like sitting by my phone waiting for her to call and tell me when she's
like
coming home.
sitting at the bus station waiting for her.
She's being murdered.
I know. Can you imagine?
I can't.
I can't either. So Oxygen, for some unknown reason, ignores Jenny Soto, another victim. And the next victim we discuss is Leah Evans. And we're with Elizabeth Swanson, who's Leah's friend.
Yeah, so Leah went to Sarah Lawrence College. It's a college full of rich kids. Leah wasn't one of those kids. She had to work really hard to get there and to stay there. But, you know, we're told she was on the path to great success. But at some point, somehow, while she's at school, she falls into, like, drug addiction.
She uses heroin.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Heroin is so goddamn scary. And in the middle of this, Leah meets an older man.
Yeah.
She drops out of college. They have 2 kids together. And then the guy just ghosts her. He disappears.
Just abandons her.
But like what happened to Leah is that, again, you know, like she's using drugs. She turns to sex work and she meets the killer. He strangles her in his car.
Joel Rifkin dug a very shallow grave out in the eastern end of Long Island.
Some people who were out looking, for flowers or something, and they saw the hand sticking up out of the ground, and that's how that body was found.
Buries her in a very, very shallow grave, and that's how she was found.
And it's also like, we don't know what happens to the kids. Like, the best friend who's here to talk about her is like, she came to my apartment like days before she went missing. She brought her kids. The kids were amazing, but she says she was just gone. That,
She was
like,
gone.
being on heroin, I could tell she like was not in her own body anymore.
And let me tell you, I've known people who have used heroin, and that's exactly it. It's horrifying.
I mean, and we don't know what happened to the kids.
I
like,
know.
The dad is gone. The mom just vanishes and is murdered.
Like where they were like waiting for her at home.
We don't even know.
You know?
But because he's getting really sloppy, he buries her in a very shallow grave and her hand is sticking out. And so somebody finds the body because the hand is sticking out of the shallow grave.
See, now to me, this is him. It's the confidence, but because remember, he knew he had like cement before and he was like using the jurisdictions against each other. But now, like I think so many of them do, he wants to get caught.
Right.
So now, like he's the shallow grave, like he knows better than that. And he's doing this on purpose.
And they say like his next victim like is his like sloppiest murder of them all.
Right. But they do skip Lauren Marquez. Sorry, I'm going to keep saying it. I know
so
it's very annoying for me
crazy.
to keep interjecting like this, but like I think Oxygen did this all wrong.
You know, I feel like they were just focusing on the victims that like had like wild stories, like
I
the most
guess.
salacious stories
Give me
or whatever.
an on-screen text.
I know.
That's it, because
Totally.
it feels like they're not part of the story and they're real, and they were.
Yeah.
So Lauren Marquez, but let's get to the next
So
one.
it's 1 month after Leah, and they say Rifkin commits his most brazen murder yet. He's in his mother's car. It's daytime. He brings a sex worker to a parking lot. There's a van that parks like 3 spaces away from him. He's like having sex with this sex worker, with the guy getting out of the van like 10 feet away from him, kills this woman.
The guy is doing Tai Chi.
Doing Tai Chi.
By
Like
the
they
way.
can see him doing the Tai Chi. He kills this woman basically in front of the guy. Doesn't see it, but he easily could.
He easily could have. Again, it's the middle of the day.
It was light out, and there were going to be commuters, people going to work, figuring I can't dispose of the body right here. So he put newspapers all over the body so that if anybody did look inside, they wouldn't see the body.
He covers the body in newspaper.
Right. It's all, again, he wanted to, I think he was like, oh, there's someone out there. Like, he just wanted, now, like, the murder isn't enough. Like, now he needs to be caught, too.
Yeah.
Like, he's at that point, right?
Yeah.
And they don't say her name, but her name is Tiffany Bresciani, and we'll get to her later, but I don't know why they're not saying her name now.
So this story is wild because he's in his mom's car. He, like, puts her in the trunk, drives home. The mom is now mad that he's been out with her car longer than she thought he would be. She's like, I gotta go do errands. He hands her the keys. She goes to Kmart with the body in the trunk.
Yeah, I got news for you, Mom.
Yeah.
We have bigger fish to fry that he was too late with the car.
Yeah, there's a body in the trunk while the mom is driving around doing errands. The mom comes home. He waits until nighttime, transfers the body from the trunk into the garage, which is connected to the house where he lives with his mother and his sister, and then spends days dismembering this body.
Right.
This is the whole Jeffrey Dahmer thing. Where
Yeah.
he lived in in his grandmother's basement using hacksaws and the smells. And no one asked a question. No one ever went down there. Like, are you telling me they say that it was sweltering heat. He's got this body in the garage. He's dismembering the body. The mom isn't smelling this. The sister isn't smelling this. No one goes into I mean, it's got, their words, not mine. Like, it must have been a fucking mess in there.
Right. That no one wants to face it, which is wild to me, but we've seen it time and time again.
Our weird loser son's just in the garage doing his thing. I guess we're just going to leave him out there so we don't have to know what's happening.
Like, exactly.
It's like the willful ignorance.
It's totally. But he puts Tiffany's body in his pickup truck, and he's going to find some place to put her remains, and now we're back at the beginning. Because remember, the cops...
The pickup truck without a license plate.
Without a license plate that didn't get pulled over, but just crashed, and the cops, because he went off the off-ramp or whatever.
Yeah, and crashed into a... Like, this is the beginning.
So now we're at the beginning again, right? Because the cops are like, oh, here's that red flag as they described a body in the trunk, which is like all the red flags come before it. We just discussed the red flags.
Can I also mention that he says when he gets out of the truck, like, why did you pull me over? And he's like, well, because your car doesn't have a license plate. And he goes, oh, it's always some 25-cent part, isn't it? Even he knows these fucking morons always get busted for the taillight.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And this was after Son of Sam. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, the parking ticket or whatever
it's
it is.
Like you're going to go to all this care to spend a weekend dismembering a body, but you're going to put her in a truck with no license plate?
But he was so ready. I think like he knew that there wasn't a license plate on it. I think he was ready because they haul him in and he starts singing like a canary. He's
within
confessing
minutes.
to 17 murders.
Yeah.
He's writing them down. He's giving all the details. He's bragging about it.
He wants the credit. He wants them to know how long he got away with it.
He was ready to be caught.
It's like the one thing in his life he was ever actually good at.
I know.
And I say that knowingly. I don't mean that in a glib way.
I know what you mean.
It motivated him to keep going because he had sucked at everything else.
Right. And he also got to like win.
Yeah.
Especially with Catherine. She was pretty. She was everything that he thought represented what was like taking him down early in life. So he was whatever. So like I just hate him.
I know.
So they search his house and someone says his bedroom was a crime scene technician's nightmare.
But it was like anyone's nightmare. Like we see the pictures of the room. It's disgusting.
But also, isn't that great for you to solve this thing? Isn't there evidence there?
I just keep thinking about the other adults who lived in this house.
I know.
And it's nobody's fault but his own. He's the fucking killer. I get it. But like, you're living in a house with like, you see this room. It is wall to wall shit. You know, there's food everywhere. There's gonna be mice and cockroaches all over the place in there. Like, ask a question.
Yeah. And you know what? So let's go through what was in there, shall we? Why they should have been asking questions. And if he's like, no, you can't go in my room. I'm locking the door. Ask a question.
It's not your house.
I know he's 30, whatever. I don't care.
I know.
So his room had a ton of evidence in it. Mostly things belonging to victims.
It was almost like digging for treasure. There was driver's license of some of the victims. There was clothing, jewelry. There was also articles on Arthur Shawcross, the serial killer from Rochester area of New York. And he had a book on the Green River Killer, almost how-to guides for him.
Articles on other serial killers like the Green River Killer.
And he literally says, I was copycatting. He's like, oh, he put one in the river, so I put one in the river. He took the credit card, so I took the credit cards.
He was studying.
Yes.
He was studying.
They were like, the Green River Killer was like his hero. He wanted to be like that guy.
And so like, you have all of this shit that's like, clearly this guy did it, right? But for whatever reason, for some reason, I mean, I guess it's the time that we're in, there was no viable DNA at the house. I'm chalking that up to it being the 90s.
Yeah.
Right? Because he dismembered women in that house. You're going to tell me there's no evidence there?
I mean, he dismembered people in the garage, like, and many people.
It's got to be because
I mean?
we're talking about 1993.
Yeah,
it has to be, right?
Because, like, the garage is, like, clean as can be, but the room looks like that.
What about the cars?
I know.
What about his mother's car?
Exactly.
Give me a break. So by April 1994, we're going to trial, obviously.
Yes.
Right? So we meet Fred, the prosecutor, and he tells us that the killer's only being charged with the murder of Tiffany Bresciani because this is the only murder they can really prove and identify.
She was the woman in the back of the car when they pulled him over. So they're saying, like, we can connect him directly to this murder.
Right. Even though he's confessed to 16 others.
Exactly.
This is what we can actually get him on and send him away for life.
Right.
So he's pleading insanity, and the lawyers are like, he kind of didn't have a choice. Like, he confessed. There's evidence. Like, what do you want?
We found the body in his car at 3 a.m. You know what I mean?
Right. But there's also a lot of pressure to convict him.
Because they're saying if he can get off on the insanity defense for this, they're not going to be able to get him on anything else.
Right. And one of the lawyers is like, on the one hand, to kill 17 people, you got to be nuts. But that's not what the insanity defense is.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we learn, like, the lawyers are proving that the killer was coherent. He was methodical.
One of the really weird things he had told some of the psychiatrists were that after he had killed most of these women, Rifkin took the money back from them that he had initially given them to perform the sex act. The jury was very persuaded by that little piece of evidence that this guy knew exactly what he was doing.
He also would take the money back from the sex workers after he killed them.
Yes.
And also, just like everything we were saying, that he knew to put them in different jurisdictions or that he used cement. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing until he felt like getting caught, and then he got sloppy.
Exactly.
So the insanity defense isn't going to work.
No, he gets convicted. He gets 25 to life, and then after that, he pleads guilty to 9 other murders.
And then his sentence is extended to, wait for it, 203 years. And we learned that his first victim, Susie, she's really ID'd in 2013.
Yeah.
And her real name is Heidi Balch.
But I mean, that was 20 years later. And like, we don't really have to get into it, but there was a cop from the township in New Jersey who always wanted to identify that body because it's like one of the only open cases they had in that town. And he really cared about the victim. And like, his higher ups kept saying to him, like, you're not a detective. Like, fuck you. What do you think you're doing? So he fucking becomes a lieutenant so he can solve this case.
Yeah, I'll just do it myself.
Exactly. And so like, it's just like actually doing good police work and like gets the answer.
Right. Yeah, sure. Was it in 2013? Yes. But do we have her real name?
20 years later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't that hard. Like, her aunt had reported her missing, and basically they went and interviewed the aunt, and within a day they were able to figure it out. They could have done this 20 years ago.
I know.
You know?
I don't know
but
why
he's the only one who
resistance.
like gave a shit.
So now we spend like the last 15 minutes talking about how he was bullied, and if he didn't hate himself so much, these women might still be alive. Look, this guy has no remorse.
No, I think what they're trying to say here though is that bullying matters.
Bullying super matters.
Yeah.
I agree, but like, I can name 5 people, not even counting myself, who were like really bullied, like badly bullied.
Yeah.
And I think everyone makes choices. I mean, this guy's sitting here comparing sex workers to cockroaches.
Yes.
So I don't really give a shit about waxing poetic about like, what if he only got the help he needed? I think a lot of things are true here.
Yeah.
But he's still sitting here proud of what he did.
No, I know. I'm just on the record saying, but it also can't help to not bully people.
Let's not bully. Like, I agree. Like, we have to stop
bullying,
especially in the age of the fucking internet.
Yeah.
We have to stop that.
Yeah.
We also have to care about sex workers more. We have to care about women more. Like, we all have a lot of work to do. Everyone has a lot of homework.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh my God, girl, we did Rifkin on Rifkin. I remember what it was called.
Oh, do you remember the rest of it?
Nope.
Right.
Conversations with a Killer?
Close enough.
Okay,
Confessions of an asshole or whatever it is. Confessions of a piece of shit.
Fam, come see me this weekend. Saturday night is my opening night for my traveling book party at the Bell House in Brooklyn.
This Saturday?
Yeah, it's this Saturday.
I can't. Just kidding.
You stop it, you.
With bells on.
Oh my God, with the Bell House. It's gonna be. I love the Bell House.
It's such a great
venue. Join us on the page, fam. Over 300 full ad-free bonus episodes. Download a binge right now. Tons of video content. If you want to see our live shows, get a real sense of what they are.
Yeah.
You can see the one that we did at Obsessed Fest with our dancers. It was incredible. You can see us live from the Wilbur where we did Class Action Park.
Yeah.
It's such a great show.
And they're good quality. Like, they're edited together.
Yes.
There are different angles and stuff. It's not just like on someone's phone in the back of the room.
Nope, you can watch Rabia and Rebecca Lavoie on the Adnan Syed panel at I keep wanting to call it BroadwayCon at Obsessed Fest. There's just so much stuff on there.
Tons of stuff.
What are we doing next, girl?
We are doing, all right, everyone, gird your loins.
Oh,
We're
God.
doing another Untold.
Oh.
Operation Flagrant Foul. This is Malice at the Palace 2.0, basically.
Oh, you know, I'm not the sports person, but the Malice at the Palace episode is a classic. It's a TCO classic.
I don't know if this is going to hold up, but
Okay.
it's a whole, there's like a bunch of tough guys being tough. There's a bunch of lying, cheating, and stealing.
All right.
There's a wife there that I think you're going to love.
Oh, I can't wait.
And we're going to be talking about the sports, for better or worse.
Remember when that 7'5" wife wanted to be our friend?
Yes, I do, for 5 seconds.
Totally.
And then she was like, you know what? Never
maybe
mind.
not.
I think she actually DM'd back, and she was like, never mind, cancel it.
You guys are good. You guys are good. Yeah. So, fam, stay tuned for our funny, ridiculous, hilarious outtakes. The trailer for what's it called?
Untold Operation Flagrant Foul.
Oh, my God. That sounds like a fart.
What?
I don't know. That was a flagrant foul.
What are you, from Long Island? Joel? Foul? What are you, from East Meadow, Long
Island? The look of
Island?
disappointment on your face when I said foul.
Foul?
Tour?
Tour.
All right, goodbye.
Bye. It's tour.
I loved the game of basketball growing up. It's all I did, all I dreamt of, and all I wanted to be a part of. Man, did I my life up.
Allegations against one basketball ref of betting on games is rocking the NBA.
As an NBA referee, it was written in the contract that you couldn't place a bet of any kind, but I had inside information, and that's all I needed to make these picks correct.
Timmy would tell me who we would bet on, and I would relay it back to my guys.
I said to myself, shouldn't be doing this. But we were winning.
I could win a few million on each game. It's a printing press.
There was a wad of money, and it clicked. He's betting on his own games.
And then all of a sudden, the FBI was here.
Wire fraud, illegal gambling.
Let's go, baby.
You can never live a peaceful life when your life has become nothing but a lie.
I once put cookies in the VCR when I was little.
You did? VCRs were expensive.
And this was a person who taped everything.
Oh,
like the VCR was their prized
her
possession.
stories.
I admitted it. I came clean.
Of course
they
you
were
did.
Like, Jillian, did you put the cookies in the
Dude,
VCR?
were you actually like feeding it like you thought it had a mouth?
It was a fun thing. It made the noise. It was a little open door.
Kids are the fucking
And
worst.
they were like, Jillian. And this person asked me, like, lip quivering.
Yeah.
He grew up to be the fucking worst. But lip, like, did you put... Because he was, like, going to record something.
Yeah.
He was like,
Alf.
did you... Yeah, The Simpsons or whatever. Like,
totally.
Did you put cookies in the VCR? And I just went, yeah. Yes. No, I said yes. Because that's the big quote. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on it. You don't have to put me under the big hot
I
lights.
just can't believe that you would have sacrificed some cookies. Those are going right into my VCR.
I had already,
you know what I mean?
eaten the whole half a sleeve of the Chips Ahoy. I'm like, I have a Chip Ahoy to spare. Put it right in the VCR.
Nom, nom,
Yeah,
nom,
what can
nom,
happen?
nom, nom.
Makes a fun sound. I don't recommend it.